Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, with my good friend, Catherine Clement. She's not in Indiana, though. I kind of said that as if she was. But anyway, today we are talking about, let me get my topic back up here. Whoops, where'd it go? Dang it. I had it up, and now it's gone. There it is. Okay, so how to live life free from fear of misery, pain, or even death. And the reason we're talking about this is because we're discussing verse 50 of the Tao Te Ching as interpreted by Wayne Dyer in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. But before we get started with that topic, I want to go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. Oh, there's Karen, Karen too. So go ahead and jump out, guys, and then we'll get this discussion going.
Good morning. It's Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado. Looking forward to today's verse. It's actually a pretty interesting verse, I thought.
And good morning. This is Karen Lohoff, and I did change my picture, so I don't know why I still look like a rolling head. But maybe as the discussion goes on, I shall come to life.
Oh, it'd be great. We'd love to have your picture up there, Karen. I just I noticed though that your login information, or that the name that it has for you says Karen Lohoff at gmail.com, and normally it says Karen something administrator or something like that. Did you create a new account or log in differently?
I don't know. I know I show up as administrator. I thought I just did for myself. So I don't know. Should I back out and come back in?
I don't know. It doesn't make a difference to me. I mean, if you wanted to see if your picture will pop up if you put one on there, or maybe it's a setting where you have to turn it on. I have no idea. Catherine, you know more about the Zoom things than I do. Do you have a clue?
It seems to me like because I host a lot of Zooms, but then I'm on a lot of Zooms too, and it seems like when I'm hosting and I'm actually signed into my Zoom account, then my picture shows up. If I go jump on somebody else's Zoom, if I'm kind of signed in. But if I'm not signed in, then just my name comes across. So
what I do is I sign into zoom.us, and then it says, do you want to join a meeting? And I put that number in. So maybe I'll fool around a little bit if you don't send anything too interesting.
You're muted, dear. I see your lips moving.
Sorry. I'm just blabbering on. And okay, so yeah, Karen, sorry. I was sitting there talking to you and I was muted. So whatever you want to do, it's up to you. We can go ahead and read the verse though while you're sorting things out. You want to do that?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it. I need to grab my book anyway.
All right. Let me find the picture. Thought I just had it up somewhere. Okay. Hold on just a minute here. I keep losing I don't know where it goes, but okay, here we go. Between birth and death, 3 in 10 are followers of life. 3 in 10 are followers of death. And men just passing from birth to death also number 3 in 10. Why is this so? because they clutch to life and cling to this passing world. But there is 1 out of 10, they say, so sure of life that tigers and wild bulls keep clear. Weapons turn from him on the battlefield. Rhinoceroses have no place to horn him. Tigers find no place for claws, and soldiers have no place to thrust their blades. Why is this so? Because he dwells in that place where death cannot enter. Realize your essence, and you will witness the end without ending.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. I'm going to read the title, the topic again. Why does it keep going away? That's so weird.
Same thing was happening to me. I couldn't find that verse. I had it pulled up 3 places.
It's like Facebook being weird, you know? I don't get it. Okay, so, all right. So I posed the question, well, the topic of how to live life free from fear, misery, pain, and even death. And then I posed the question, is it possible to live life without any fear of something bad happening? And, you know, I posed that because I thought that this was just I don't know, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff that came up for me. But before I start jibber-jabbering about that, I got to get back over here. Where is our screen? Over here. What? Weird. Ah! Now I have the screen minimized. Okay.
Sometimes it'll be in a little window, like up in the top right of your screen somewhere.
I've got this little window, and I'm like, wake back up, window, get big again. And it's just hanging out there being small. Exit minimize video. There we go. Now I can see you guys again. So, yeah, this was a very interesting verse. I think that before we talk about some of what came up for us, I want to kind of address what Wayne titled his chapter, Living as an Immortal. And I'm like, whoa, you know, as an immortal, is that even possible? I mean, in the movies, they say, you know, you got to be like a vampire or something to be immortal. Yeah, right. And so, you know, what is that trying to tell us? And you know, I kind of want to talk about these things that he talks about. Some people follow life, some people follow death, some people are, you know, just passing from one to the other. Where do you think we should start? There's so much.
I know. It's a very interesting verse this time.
Yeah.
I don't always read the book. I'm bad to say. I just like read the verse, and
right.
What I get from that, I don't have time to read the book. But today I was like, okay, I'm getting up early because I'm going to have to read this verse. I mean, the book part of it. And yeah, so I don't know, where you just start with whatever it brought up for you, I guess, or how do you feel about that, being immortal? I actually have friends that believe they are truly immortal physically as well. I mean, I believe we are spiritually.
Yeah.
They do things, very strange things they do to ensure that. And being a nurse and having, you know, worked with so many people and watching people fail so quickly and just dealing with death, you know, on such a level, I'm sitting back going, okay, if you say so. You know, so far everybody I've met has died, but you know, if people believe in the Bible, I don't know, I think that they lived for thousands of years or something, it says in the Bible, or like 900 or something, right? And they were having babies at 300 or something. I don't know.
Well, you know, back then they were still populating the earth, so they had to live a long time to make enough babies, right? You know, I don't know, but you know, that's interesting thought. You know, because I've listened to different health related books. Or was one of them, I think I've got it over here, but he was talking about you know, the fact that we tend to be sick for no other reason than we think we're supposed to be. That's kind of the gist of it, And of course, there's a whole lot more to that. Obviously, it's all that programming that we get, as we're growing up, and of course, from generation to generation, and we start thinking we're supposed to get sick for one reason or another, and we think we're supposed to age, but yet there's been, they say that all of our cells in our body are completely 100% replaced every 7 years. And if that's so, why in the world are they being replaced with deteriorating cells? It doesn't make any sense, but yet we do. And so there's that weird part of it of, okay, what if we were to be able to kind of reprogram our brains per se, kind of like we've talked about with, in the previous book, what to say when you talk to yourself, and then one of the other previous books when we were talking about what is that one called, psycho-cybernetics, and and both of those talk about reprogramming our brains so that we can live a more positive, happy, enjoyable life. And that a lot of times some of the things that we are taught when we're young program us to act in a certain way or be a certain way, or and we would get that same programming health-wise too. So I think that that's really an interesting topic to think, okay, well, what if we changed all of our ways of thinking about health and life in general? Would we be able to physically live for hundreds of years or thousands even? I mean, could we be physically immortal? That's an interesting question right there, or I was listening to, re-listening to a course on metaphysics, like a kind of like a beginner's course. And it was talking about that whole aspect of, when we get computers advanced enough, can we actually copy what we have in our brains and put it on a computer? And if we did, would that be us? All these weird questions, right? So, but yeah, immortality is an interesting topic, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know, what do you think?
Well, you're right. I mean, technically, they say they've proven scientifically that, everything is regrown every 7 years. So really, we shouldn't age. But we do. I can verify that for you. We do. And but I think a lot of it has to do with programming. I mean, having I work primarily with babies, but I did do some pediatrics when I did home health and stuff, and just seeing how people program their children for illness is very interesting. Especially things like allergies. I think people tend to be especially subjective somehow to being allergic to things. But not that there aren't true allergies, there are, but I've actually seen and witnessed even myself, if I go to the store and somebody's, I'm standing there in the line, and all of a sudden I feel wind come across my hair because somebody's just horked behind me, like coughing their head off. If I let my mind go to, oh, great, now I'm going to be sick. I mean, I can make myself sick. Have you ever tried to do that? I have. I know that I can make myself sick with my mind. I know it because I've done it. And I've also not done it. I mean, I've had that experience and said, okay, now, thankfully, my immune system is like amazing. So blessings on that person to get well, and hope they've, instead of, oh God, now I'm going to get sick, and then I don't get sick. You know what I mean? So it's strange. And like little kids, I remember my son, I think I've told this story before, but my daughter was riding a big wheel or a tricycle or something. I think it was a big wheel though. And my son was pushing her, and then he tripped and fell, but somehow he like hung on instead of letting go. Sort of like when you fall on water skis and you forget to let go of the rope. You're just like, so he was getting drugged behind this thing. this big wheel, and got some pretty good scrapes on his belly and his knees and stuff. He was a pretty little kid. And, it was just, it's the end of the world. And I just picked him up and I just started talking to him and telling him I was taking him in the house, and I had a magical stone that was going to make him feel better. And I laid him on the couch and I picked up a piece of quartz and I laid the magical stone on his belly, and I mean, within seconds he was fine. But if I hadn't had that magical stone, he'd probably been screaming his head off for another hour or something, So it's really interesting. And in nursing school, when you're going through nursing school, they'll tell you at the beginning, now you do not have every one of these conditions that we're about to study, because as you start learning about all these different conditions, you're like, oh God, that happens to me. I might have that. I mean, because so many of them have the same symptoms, actually, and it's really just which specialist doctor you wind up in front of will depend on what your symptoms get called as far as condition. If you're tired and you go to your regular doctor, they might check your blood count. If you're tired and you go to the psychiatrist, you're depressed. I mean, seriously, it's just same symptom pretty much. But so it's fascinating to me how the mind works. And my daughter, and I'll shut up now because I know I'm going on. My daughter is in nursing school, and she's telling me that what they're learning about the way just the structure of a cell is completely different from what she was taught in school, what I was taught in nursing school. Like now they have a completely different, I'm going to have to go look it up now because I want to know what is it now. But so not only, I mean, there's just, everything is subjective, because it really just, if you think that you never get sick, you just never get sick. It's really weird. And yet I can say I don't have any pain, and that doesn't work at all.
Isn't that funny? I mean, it makes no sense. But yeah, I'm right there with you, because, I constantly tell myself, and it's not that, it's like on one hand I am doing it on purpose, and on one hand I am just, that's how I am, is that whole, I have a strong immune system, I never get sick, injuries make me stronger, stuff like that. It's like when I sprained my ankle a couple years back, and I went into the doctor and they x-rayed it and they this and that and whatever, and it wasn't broken or anything, it was just severely sprained, and they were trying to tell me that, well, you got to be careful from now on because now you're prone to being sprained. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I don't know who you're talking to or who you think you are, but I'm like, no, I'm not. My ankle is going to be stronger than it was before, and it has been. And then but what's funny is then later on, I was like a couple years or a year and a half or so later, I sprained my other ankle. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I should have said both ankles get stronger if one gets injured, but I didn't. And but now I have very strong ankles, and it's funny because I see these folks that you'll hear them say it, that, oh, I sprained my ankle and now I sprain it all the time. I'm like, well, that's your own fault. Quit telling yourself that. But it's funny. And, but the same thing, like you were talking about with the sneeze at work, everybody has been experiencing some kind of a stomach virus, or, and not like a heavy flu kind of thing, just like this light thing where they all feel tired and they're feeling upset stomach and they're just feeling just completely drained. And I'm like, well, it must be some kind of mild flu or something going on. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing my immune system's so strong, I won't get that, But I mean, working in the environment that I'm working in, we have like thousands of people that come in the store every day, and they're all touching everything, and I have to touch everything that they've touched. And I don't get to wash my hands every 2 seconds, even though I want to. And I can only imagine if I wasn't telling myself, hey, you have a strong immune system, you never get sick. I'd be sick all the time. I mean, I don't know. It seems like, who knows? Who knows? But Karen, did you get back on? You're still here with us? Did you sort it out?
I'm here. I don't think I've gotten off and on. I've gone round and round. Sorry about that. I have a picture, and I thought, oh, I'll just switch that picture out. But anyway, so, you know, for years, I would say, if I felt like I was getting a cold, I would say, cancel, you know. I would ding my fingers on my knee, you know, 10 times or whatever. And I don't know if this is how you say it. I'm going to look at your faces so you can tell me if you know better. There's a horse that's called, I think, a Percheron horse. You ever seen that horse? How big that horse is? About double size horse, and just a gorgeous horse, at least the one that I've seen. And so I talk to myself about being as healthy as a Percheron horse. And then I think, do I know if they're healthy? Maybe they only live 5 years. And I thought, you know, it just really doesn't matter. If my intention is that I'm as healthy as this, like, massively gorgeous horse, which horses I think in general are gorgeous anyway, well, I ought to look a lot better than I do. But I was reading, I do a lot of reading of Neville Goddard's things, and this fellow wrote a comment, you know, well, can you really mend a broken bone? Can you do this? Can you do that? And the other thing, and different people were saying, well, I did. Well, I did. Yeah. See? Oh, we're waving. I thought you were saying, yeah, I mended a broken bone too. You've grown your hair, Jason. How do you do that? This is amazing. It's all floofy. You'll have to tell us how to do that.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and Happy New Year. And great to hear your voice, Karen.
Thanks, Jason. And Chris. It's good to have you guys on. We're just talking about being healthy despite the odds. You know, I was thinking back when I think this was probably my first year at university. I had this incredible javelin in the side ache. And so I go to the, you know, I mean, even I knew. I mean, here I am, just a freshman, and I'm looking around. I think, oh, this doesn't look very pro, you know. And they're telling me I have, what is that thing? You know, now they're advertising it a lot, you know, on TV. All these people have it. They lift up their shirt and they have this massive bear paw swipe. It's what is that called? Anyway, they tell you can get it again. And I'm thinking, no way am I getting that again. You forget that idea. Oh, I wish I could think of what it's called. I'll let you talk, Jason. You go ahead and entertain us, or Chris, one of you.
Hi, good morning. Sorry I'm late. Happy New Year, everyone. You'll never guess what I was doing. Sleeping in. I'm not going to apologize.
Happy New Year, Chris.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome, guys. We've been kind of talking about just, I don't know, a little bit of our first impressions of this verse, and how Wayne kind of was talking about living as an immortal, and we got on the discussion of our, you know, mind over health and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we are right now. Glad to have you. Missed having you recently, Jason. Good to see you again, Chris.
Well, thank you. Great to see you guys.
Got your selfie stick, huh?
Yep, that's what I got for Christmas.
Awesome.
Nice. Those are so much fun, but so annoying too at the same time. Right? No, they're fun. They're great.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out. I was just sick of looking at my whole face in the screen.
Is that you use your phone? You've been using your phone the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
It's amazing. We can do everything on our phone now.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the 50th verse, right? And this this touches on some very good topics, and on some other groups I'm part of. We've been talking about things that are holding us back, and Samantha, your post, kind of hits it on the head as to asking ourselves a question. What has been holding us back in this past year that we can let go of and make room for new and better things, right? So, we can all ask ourselves those questions, and I know that when it comes to the fears, or as it's put in the Think and Grow Rich book, that they talk about the 6 ghosts of fear, and how they're these are typical fears that everybody has that ends up holding them back. And just so you guys know what I'm speaking of, there's the 6 basic fears, as in the one of the original versions of that book, Think and Grow Rich, is the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. And so they speak of these being like the biggest 6 fears that everyone has, in that book they find that has held a lot of people back and had impact on people's lives. And I know when I read that book and I was able to kind of dig down into which fears were affecting me, it really helped me a lot, because then I could pinpoint what it was I needed to work on, and it really freed me up quite a bit. And I sort of think that this verse is speaking about that. It's asking us to look into how we are living our lives, how we are going through our daily lives, and really admitting to ourselves, what's holding us back, because I think, at least for me, I try to live life a certain way without fear, but little fears, they're not huge fears that, I get scared about doing something, like that, but they're just little things that, little what ifs. And they talks about that as well, these living life without that if factor, and I think it's really freeing if you spend some time to pinpoint it and learn how to mitigate these fears or get rid of them altogether. I think it can really help us, let off of the brake and move faster and more efficiently in our life and have more happiness out of life. For me, I think, lately, the fear of death has been something that's come up for me. But I think in the past, over this past year, the fear of criticism has been an issue. So I'd be interested in finding out which of those resonate to you guys.
I'd sort of say fear of death, and then it was talking about followers of life, followers of death. I'm looking at it right now. That's really interesting. So yeah, fear is like, that's the big element in people's life. And basically, like, I was listening to someone, they were talking about the no fear zone, and you gotta live in a no fear zone. I was watching a show, I think it was last night or the night before. And this lady, this is kind of dark, but this lady was a mortician. And she did not bat an eyeball about her work. It was like she was working at McDonald's. You know, she did the entire process of this. She practically didn't get her kids involved, but they were around it. They were under 10. And, you know, it was like, it gave her a greater appreciation, but she went about the subject without fear. And it's almost really with fear, the best way to deal with fear is like head on, actually. I mean, there's really no other way. That's the best way, because then the fear is not, it's not so much once you look at what it is, because it's a false expectation appearing real. So that's what I think.
Yeah, that's so true. That's awesome. I mean, when you actually tackle it, and you decide to tackle fear and look into it and really question that fear. A lot of times you end up, at least for me, I find that there's really no substance to it. You know, you can have the fear of say failure, you know, and that can keep you from doing things or keep you from being consistent in something, because these little what ifs come up because of this fear. But you know, if your fear is failure or fear of criticism because of failure, you know, you gotta question that, because if you really put your effort into succeeding and focus on the actions that you need to succeed in whatever it is that you're doing, there's not going to be any room for the failure. There's not going to be room to think about the criticism. And then if something pops up that is outside of your ability to it's outside of your control, then you know nobody's going to criticize you anyway, and because it's outside of your control, and you've done everything that you could to succeed, and you will have succeeded at some level. So there really shouldn't be any fear of criticism, but we from a young age, I think we kind of build that up, and so we really do have to tackle these head on. I think you're absolutely correct there, Chris. But it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, to dig into your fears and to go toe to toe with these things that we've keep us from taking action. I mean, you not only have the fear itself, but then you have the remorse of letting the fear control your life, and you have the possibility of going down that rabbit hole, and and then it takes the time, and it's you're just but that's where it starts, I think. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. And Catherine, hey, did you have a birthday here recently? Happy birthday. I didn't get to wish you happy birthday. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What day was it, Catherine?
The 27th.
All right. Happy birthday. I'm going to let you guys indulge myself as well. My birthday's tomorrow, New Year's Day.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Chris.
Cool.
We could all sing.
No.
It's okay.
Oh, how rude. That's what my sister started to say. I'll say, I can sing, and she'll say, no.
Okay. You're right. It's got to be for Catherine.
I think that it's, birthdays are a funny thing. I was just speaking to a fellow last night from some country in Africa. I'm not sure which one. And he was experiencing sadness, looking we had this long conversation. I had no idea. I didn't actually have time at the moment to go look at his profile and all that sort of thing. So we're just kind of chatting away, but he's telling me how, his youth is gone. He's realized that his youth is gone. And there's there's so many things, regrets, and he just felt like his life was over pretty much, how this conversation was going. And as we got into it, it turned out he was like 22 years old. 22, and he just thought his life was over. And I was like, wow.
Okay, now I'm depressed.
More disappointments to go through. That's what I thought. No, really, but life is awesome. I have never had a problem getting older, because I get more comfortable in my body the older that I get. I feel like I'm youthing in many ways as opposed to aging. That doesn't mean I think that my body is immortal, like we were talking about earlier. I guess living in the, with what I deal with daily is when people say pain doesn't exist, it's just one of those times where it doesn't matter how loving you are, you just want to reach out and bitch slap somebody at the time, because my crotch is on fire and you're telling me that pain doesn't exist, but I thought it was very interesting in this verse, even way back in these times and these days, he pointed out the 1%ers, you guys. Did you realize that? He said 3 go this way, 3 go this way, and then there's that 1. So even way back then, they recognized the 1%ers. It seems like there's always been a population that, whether they know it from birth or not, they learn that they're sort of in control of their own destiny somehow, or at least can have great effect on it. I thank you for that confirmation. Yes, at least be able to have great effect, because we were talking earlier how it really comes to your perspective on things. I mean, every time it just comes down to perspective and choice on all of these. Are you going to focus on life? You're going to focus on death. And being a nurse and having worked with people, especially when they're at that stage, at like the hospice stage, where they've pretty much been told they just have less than 6 months to live, and or seeing somebody newly diagnosed with, say, cancer or something that they feel is going to take them out. It's very, I don't want to say it's interesting, but it's very, people respond to these things so differently. One person gets a cancer diagnosis and they go straight to they're going to die tomorrow, and another person hears that diagnosis and they say, no way, I'm going to beat this thing. And they never have a thought in their mind that it's going to take them out. They just know that they're going to beat it. And it's a choice, but it's somehow more than a choice, because I don't know where that extra, oomph comes from, that extra hope. But it's very, very true, this verse, how, it just seems like there's some people that are going to go this way. They're going to look at it half empty. The other people are going to go half full. And then there's going to be that one that thinks that they're Superman or Supergirl.
I think that's interesting. The 1%ers, yeah, I think it is. It's, who you were just talking, who was talking about somebody they came across that, God, I lost my thought. Anyway, well, I experienced basically the same thing at work. There's a number of folks that, you were talking about the 22-year-old guy. And, I have a number of folks that I work with that, are all different ages. And of course, we have all these customers coming through there from every walk of life. And I had this one girl that she was saying how much she just, hated her life, and that it was just so horrible, and her life was over. It was that dramatic. Oh, my life is over, and she was like 20 or something. And I'm like, girl, your life hasn't even started yet, you know? I'm like, she's upset because I don't know what it was. It was her, you know, she was still working on her nursing school because that's what she was going to school for. And I don't know, something had happened with her family or something like that. And they didn't like whatever she was doing. And now she's feeling all bad about it. That criticism you were talking about, Jason. And I'm like, girl, you know, it is completely okay. You have your whole entire life ahead of you to go and try all these different things. And if you decide that, okay, you've done this thing and now you don't want to do it anymore, and I don't think that's what it was. I think it was something else. But I'm like, whatever it is you decide is all okay. You can do it and you can change it. And then you can do something completely different later. It doesn't matter. And she was just like, oh, I'm so glad you said that. You know, like never even crossed her mind that she could have more than one life experience in one lifetime. You know, I was just like, dang. But then I was walking through my department the other day, and this young girl, she was maybe 13, in that kind of early teen age, and she was having a conversation with her mom, and I don't know, her mom didn't like some shoe she picked out or something. I don't even know what it was, and the first thing out of the little girl's mouth was, I hate my life. It's horrible. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, you're so young and all over a shoe. You know, it's just like, man. And it's just, it's excruciating when you look at things from this perspective of, you know, like what Lao Tzu is talking about, what Wayne Dyer is talking about. And I think that they're kind of trying to say, again, that's a whole reminder of, you know, we're more than just this body. We're more. That's why we're talking about this immortality. I know we kind of started the conversation with, okay, you know, can our bodies live longer than what we think they are? And that whole mind over body kind of thing. And I think that's awesome. But I think he's talking about our spiritual self is immortal. And when we start looking at things in this perspective of eternity, is then these little things that happen to us in our lives can not seem so dang serious, you know. And, you know, when Jason, you're talking about fear, was it Chris? No, it was Chris. You said the false expectations appearing real. Who was that said that, Chris? Was that you? Oh, that's right. And, you know, the thing that came up for me on that was like, yeah, it's the fear of the unknown, of what we think we're afraid of. And then we blow it up in our mind of all these ideas of what we think that means. And it comes back to the same thing when you were talking, Catherine, before, Byron Katie's work of, you know, asking yourself those questions of identifying, is this really true? And Jason, I want to thank you for bringing up the 6 basic fears from Think and Grow Rich. I'm going to have to go back and pull that book out and read it up again. I think that's awesome, because then we can really dig down into those things that we think we're afraid of and ask those questions from Byron Katie's work to, really dig into those fears and see what is it that's really causing this, you know. When I first read this verse, what ended up coming up for me is kind of one of my big fears, that are one of the things that I have touted as a fear of mine. And now I'm realizing, okay, why am I afraid of that? But it is the whole, you know, we keep talking about the medical industry. You know, I have all this. I was telling my husband the other day, I'm like, you know, I feel like the medical industry is like in the dark ages compared to what we know, and especially in the U.S. where they're pushing down so many treatments that are so much better and so much more effective and less invasive and less damaging. And so one of my biggest fears is that something happens to me and I won't have any control over what happens. You know, I'll end up in the hospital and they'll be doing all these horrible things to me. And that scares the shit out of me, you know, because I don't want all that. You know, I want to have control over, you know, I don't want some doctor who thinks he's, you know, who knows what, cutting me open for no really good reason, or poisoning me with some of those drugs that they have. And you know, and when I read this verse and I started thinking about that, I was like, okay, you know, what is it that I'm really blowing this out of proportion in my mind, because I'm thinking of all these horrible, horrible things they could do and all the worst case scenarios, and and then when I sit in, we're reading in the chapter, and Wayne is sitting there saying, reminding you, okay, we're not this physical body, we're more than that, is that we can then realize, okay, whatever happens to this body, it's really not that big a deal. I can't actually be hurt physically, sure, and as a human, sure, I can die or whatever, but as the spiritual being, I never die. I keep on going. And so it's okay. Whatever happens in this life is okay, because it's just an experience that we've come here to experience. And so, okay, so if I have to go through this, whatever it is, that's part of that life experience that I've chosen to place myself in, and it'll all work out in one way or another. Everything else has. I don't know why this wouldn't either, but yet I keep making myself all afraid of it. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it so far. Jump out there, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right on. Like, about fearing things that are gonna happen, or just like, not worrying about what's gonna happen, like, and then he says it's a place where fear doesn't enter. That's the essence. So obviously, yeah, that is a reference to the soul. And the thing about fear, or the way we deal with a lot of things in life, is like 95 to 98% of the things that we think about just don't happen. Like most of the things that we're thinking about all day long, it doesn't happen quite in that way. Like, we just have this constant, voice where we're talking about what's going to happen, thinking about how it's going to happen. And most of the times, even if it's similar to something, it doesn't turn out quite that way. So it's like, it's best not to listen to your own thoughts about everything. I mean, trust your intuition, I suppose, but it's best not to worry about everything. Doesn't really help.
Why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we pick the possible bad stuff to focus on, and then keep building those things up in our head rather than all the good things? I like to think about the good things too, and I tend to do that. I know what it is. Right here. This is it. We were told in school, quit daydreaming, quit doing that. Get your head out of the clouds, get back to reality. That's where all that comes from. So now, instead of thinking about all the awesomeness in the world, we're all told, no, you need to think about reality, the torture. What were we thinking? I'm gonna, my grandkids, I'm gonna make sure, I'm like, get your head in the clouds, will you? You better get over there and start daydreaming. What would our world be like if we started telling our kids that, rather than get your head out of the clouds and get back down to earth and all that crap? Karen, we haven't heard from you in a while. Jump out there, girl.
Well, I'm trying to figure something out. When I was thinking through some of these things, I thought, I've never had a fear of death, and being bipolar, having had suicidal thinking, sometimes I really made kind of the opposite approach. But I got to thinking that that's not true, that I have hidden this aspect from myself. Whenever this subject comes up before, as far as I know, I've never thought about it before. When when I was pregnant with my first child, and I was actually, I think, probably due at any time, my husband had somebody from school. They'd had study groups, and so he'd known this guy pretty well, and he and his wife came through. They were coming from California to Florida for Thanksgiving, and the guys get together and they're talking about their stuff, and I'm saying, hey, how is it to have this child? And she said, well, I haven't really enjoyed it all that much so far because, I determined to breastfeed. And she said, the child has had pyloric stenosis and all this kind of crap, which hasn't been very fun. Meaning the child is throwing up, all this kind of stuff. So I had in my head that she was looking forward to much better days, and they were going to go see family, and things were just going to get better and better. And I had the baby, and then we heard coming back that they had been in a car accident, and she had died. So here's this child that she'd been looking forward to having this much improved relationship with and life with and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, somebody else is going to come in, which happened. He married somebody else. She comes in, raises this child. And so in my brain this whole time, I'm thinking, I've really got to watch it. I've got to watch my P's and Q's and not do something where, 1 minute I'm alive and the next minute I'm not. And so I gave up all this stuff, which I dearly loved, which was rappelling and spelunking and prussicking and doing all kinds of things that just were really individual loves that I had, thinking, I'm saving my life so that I can raise my children. And I'm not sure exactly what made me catch that and realize that I had this oddball, weird fear of death that I never could really talk to anyone about. I mean, my husband was the sort of person that, you'd say something like that to, and oh man, you realize you were really a dork. So I don't like being a dork. So, I just kept it to myself, and it wasn't until I can't believe how many things I realized now that I'm in my 60s, which reminds me, I heard about Princess Leia. What the heck is her name? I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about. Dying, and then her mother dying the next day. And I'm thinking, couples do this. The wife dies and the man dies. And I thought, and of course, I always think, that for whatever reason, I knew who Debbie Reynolds was when I was quite a young child, and I was thinking, well, she'd had this daughter, probably when she was 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there, and the person relaying the story to me looks at me with this hard stare. She was 84, so she was 24 years old when she had this daughter. So, but then someone commented that Debbie Reynolds had just said while they were preparing, for the funeral arrangements and all that kind of stuff, I just might as well go join her, or I'd really like to go join her, or something like that. And I thought, I do think we have that much control. Not all the time, but I do think that, I don't know, it's something about the set of our mind. I've talked before about how you have to work your mouth just right. Like when my grandmother was crocheting, she was, I'd look at her mouth and her mouth was always working. It was always like, oh, save me, please. When I get older, I hope I have better control. But my son, who's had his jaw broken in 3 places, and the mess up of the teeth and all that kind of stuff that comes with that sort of thing, I notice sometimes he'll get concentrating and he'll really be working his mouth. And so I think there's something about how we mingle things in our minds, and there's, it's kind of like they say there's only 8 expressions, facial expressions across the world, and everybody, no matter who and what background they have, you can tell if they're looking disgusted or if they're looking sad or if they're looking happy. And I think, I know for me, I do that mentally, that I can hear about something and it's like I have this awareness on the inside of my face that I have this disgusted look. And no one's saying anything to me, so I figure I probably don't have it on the outside. So that's, aren't you always glad when you call on me?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow, you just brought up so many great points. Yeah, wow, you just brought up so many good points. This, I think the biggest thing I took away from what you just said there, Karen, is that our fears come a lot from our unfulfilled expectation, right? And I think the book talks a lot about not, having expectations and what expectations, or how to have expectations or how to not have expectations and be free of those things. But yeah, we're from an early age, we're kind of taught to, hey, this is how life is going to go. This is what to expect, do this and this will happen. This, get good grades and you get a good job and you have a good life. And, and we start thinking, wow, we can really, as a kid, we start believing that we can plan our lives out and that we can live them exactly the way we plan them. And nobody comes along and says, hey, you got to be flexible. You got to be able to, endure and move on and be flexible. And so I wanted to bring that up, but I also want to bring up, I think, I 100% am, believing that our speak, whether it's external or internal, has a huge amount to do with our attitude and with what happens in our life. I kind of think that, hey, if it's like, especially if we speak it out loud with energy, somehow the universe is listening and it's just going, okay, you say, you might say something off the cuff that is, that you're upset about, and you say something like you hate your life, then the universe says, okay, you hate your life. And then you get what that brings. I think it's really willing to give us whatever we ask for. It's just our expectations are such that we want it a certain way and at a certain time, and then if we don't get it then in the way that we planned, we get aggravated, and then we spout something off that then changes the direction, changes our course, and then we're wondering why we're still not getting that thing that we want or that we've expected. I don't think it's exactly wrong to have expectations, but I think we need to be fluid, or not fluid, but fluid and flexible about them and about the way we, how we get them. And the other thing is that, understanding that everything about life is a gift. And so even the little things that we have, we can find joy in them, then you're on the right track. If you can find, and if you do that, then if you really put some effort into doing that, then you're making a big contribution in countering the negative energies that seem to just, be sometimes habitual or inherent to our lives. So, wow. You just, you touch on a lot of things, Karen. Thank you so much. I'm interested in hearing what the rest of the group has to say about it.
Yeah, well, I got something to say, but what time did you guys start this morning?
So we started at 10, but go ahead and share your thoughts, Chris, and we'll just wrap up when everybody's done.
I was going to say, if you were going to wrap up right now, that was fine too.
Go ahead.
And I got this question, excuse me, yes, I got a frog in my throat. Catherine, this brought up something interesting to me. You were saying like the thoughts we have, it seems to direct us in a certain way, and we'll be unconsciously thinking of it, and then it takes us in a certain way. When you were doing nursing, I don't know if you still are, when you're doing nursing, did you have an experience of noticing, or, you know, Karen was talking about Carrie Fisher's mother, Debbie Reynolds, and saying, well, I wish I was going, you know, just offhanded remark. Did you notice that that was a common thing among people to say, you know, something regarding their death relative to the time when it would happen?
That's an interesting question. Typically, people are told by their doctors that they're going to die within a certain period of time. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen people die right at that. You know, like if they say, oh, you're going to die in 3 months, they die in about 3 months. It's frightening, actually. It seems like sometimes we have control, like we say something and instantly it manifests in some way, you know, whether good or bad. And then other times, I mean, we could be so focused on making something happen or whatever, and it doesn't happen. So I really don't get like why sometimes we have control, or it appears that we do, and sometimes we don't. But I definitely, we were talking about this earlier, I definitely have, I can see people make themselves sick. I can see people get focused on a set of symptoms and give themselves that disease basically by staying so focused on it. I know a lady who is living out in the middle of the desert, like trying to survive. It's because she's sensitive to everything. Like she can't be around people at all, or any kind of anything, because it has some kind of chemical effect on her. And her daughter, she runs this Facebook group, and her daughter's in that Facebook group too. And I noticed one day that her daughter said in a comment, you know, it's so strange that my mom and I would wind up with this condition, because even back before we started having any of these symptoms, you know, my mom was telling me about this condition and how people can get so sensitive to all these chemicals and it can overwhelm, you know, and I was just like, oh my God, because this woman is literally living a life of basically hell every day, her experience here. And she probably programmed herself for it, you know. It was just like, oh, wow. And I know, you know, for instance, with pain, when I focus on the pain gets worse, or I get more aware of the pain or whatever. So I just am constantly refocusing elsewhere. But it's so, I mean, I think sometimes about some of the things I said to the patients that I was working with as a nurse, especially the babies. I always tried to be optimistic, but at the same time, there were situations where, you know, there was just really, it, in the absence of a complete miracle, there was just no hope for these children to have any kind of a future, because they were so brain damaged or whatever the situation was. And But some people, you know, they just don't give up on life. Like there's people, we've all heard of people that go into comas and they're in a coma for like 16 years or some shit. And then they come out of it. Like, how does that happen? Is it because the people around them refuse to give up on them, you know, and it just, I don't know, there's so much about life that we don't understand. And so much, like I was saying earlier, my daughter's in nursing school, and even the structure of a cell has completely changed from what she was taught in science earlier in her life. So I just don't think we really know all that much about anything, you guys. And that's just the way it is.
What's that? What's that? What the bleep do we know? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and thank you for answering that. That was really thorough. I kind of went deep there because, well, Karen made me really think there. So let us all bring ourselves into a new year with a happy disposition, a peaceful life, good and fortunate and abundant things that we want to attract to our lives. And everybody who's going to watch this replay or is watching now, enjoy your new year. Get ready. Have a good new year. And think positively towards things. Expect positive things. And work towards making things excellent in your life. Okay? We love y'all.
Yeah. Well, let that be a wrap then. Thanks for wrapping that up there, Chris.
Great.
Yeah, we'll just we'll let that be the end for today. We can keep our conversation going after the recording now, but I wanted to just thank everybody for your support this year, and thank you so much for everybody who is joining us and who has watched this as a replay. We love you. We appreciate you. And of course, you know, we want you to participate. If you're just watching this as a replay and you're having thoughts that come up and you're like, oh, yeah, this, and what about that? Then we want to hear that. What about that? You know, we want to hear that. So you got to jump on here with us weekly at 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday mornings, and you can find the link to join this conversation. Excuse me. There'll be a link under the video on YouTube, but you can find it by going to zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com, and that's ZOOM.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. So guys, have an awesome, amazing, wonderful weekend and a happy, beautiful, awesome new year. And we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
That was cool.
It still says it's recording.
Thanks for what? Oh, it says recording again.